Bueno, my dear people, so today we're going to work in the last class of this level. This is the week number 8. It's the last week of the level intermediate 2. I have been checking activities that you sent, and I am pretty pleased. I'm pretty proud of you because I have seen that most of the topics that you saw in the last 3 weeks when I was not here, you got it like almost perfect. We with Paola we had some tutoring sessions yesterday, but it was a kind of a misunderstanding because I think that she got the topic just well. So it was like a misunderstanding with the activities, but I am pretty happy to see that you have studied like very attentively and you have got the topics like pretty well. The connectors, the conditionals, the wishes in the past, which is a topic that is not so simple. It's a little bit confusing. So, but I have seen in the activities that you have sent that the topics are clear. So that makes me really happy, of course. Today we're going to focus in our last topic, and our last topic it's not difficult. It's actually kind of like a review, like other context for a topic that we have seen before, right? But it's like just simple topics. Right. So where the week it's called New Horizons, no? New Horizons, it's like looking into the future, looking for new plans, looking into what are we going to do, right? So of course it implies that we're going to check or we're going to talk about the future. But this time we're going to do it a little bit different, or we're going to add other different aspects of the future, right? Including some conditionals that can include the future, right? So we're going to work today into different parts, and I would like to start with this question. What would be different now if you hadn't started to study English? What would be different now in your lives if you hadn't started to study English? Anything would be different, or everything would be just the same?
For me, I think everything will be just the same. I will continue studying at the Sena, maybe.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, that's very possible. Maybe you would study other thing like piano or music or something different, or just studying the Senate?
I am trying to estoy haciendo como el proceso
Don't worry.
for enter to the UNAT University for
You
the
are
para
applying.
la yes, applying.
Okay. For what major? What is the major that you're applying to?
For international business.
Okay, very good. In the UNAT, right?
Yes.
Okay, so my God, best of luck with that process because it's important.
Yes.
Okay, Amy, good, nice. And what about you, Paul? What would be different now if you hadn't started to study English before?
Well, maybe I would be studying something different, right? Like a technical degree or something like that, or a career in a university, maybe.
Okay.
But well, I decided to study English, and I think my future will be really good. I hope so.
I hope so too, and I'm pretty sure it will. Okay, Paul. Maybe would you be studying another language if you hadn't started to study English? Probably would you be studying other different language like French or something like that?
Yes, of course. I have always the dream to study Korean. Um, in the pandemic, I started to study Korean, but I left this language.
Why did you leave it?
Because I don't had anybody to practice. It was pretty difficult for me to practice with someone, so I give up.
Okay, very yeah. When you don't have like kind of specific objective to use the language, it's a little bit difficult to keep up with the process, no? Yeah. Maybe watching K dramas, no? Another 22.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, very good, excellent. So in this case, my dear ladies, we're thinking that one decision of the past could possibly affect our present or our future, right? And I am going to ask you just the next question. The other one, we are going to check it later. But by the time that we finish the course, it means when we get to the week number 8 of the advanced level, how long will we or will you have been learning English? Taking into account that we started on February the 24th, and you will probably finish the advanced level by February, March, April, May, June, July. I think so. By July. No, July, it's not possible. Oh, no, yes, of course. No, let's say, oh, yeah, it's August, probably. Yes, so I suppose that it's August. August the 24th. Yeah. By this time, we will finish advance week number 8. Yes. So the question is, how long, how much time will you have been learning English when you finished the advanced level? How long will you have been learning English? In terms
In
of
my
time?
case, for about 7 months, maybe,
Exactly.
because I started in intermediate one.
Because you started intermediate one, you just had the middle pack that is 6, 7 months, no? So from here until here, until there, until August the 21st, it's almost 6 or 7. March, April, May, June, July, and August. No, 6 months. Yes, exactly.
Yes,
6. Exactly. Actually, all this group will have been learning English for 6 months because it's the maximum time that you have to complete the levels, right? That's the time of your contract. Great, thank you. So it's an action that started in the past because we already started, but in the future, we will continue doing it and we want to specify the duration of the action, 6 months, right? Okay, and the last question that I would like to know is 5 years from now, it means in the year 2030. What would you like to have achieved with your English? Probably would you like to have traveled to other country? Would you like to have entered to a foreign university? Probably would you like to have established a company in another country? What would you like to have achieved with your English in 5 years?
I would like to have been travel for another country or maybe enter to a company of the international business.
Oh, like a multinational company.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Emily. Very good. And Paul, what about you?
yes, it's like the same. I would like to work in an international company with a very advanced English level is my dream. And also I would like to pass the exam of IELTS and TOEFL, something like
TOEFL,
that.
TOEFL and
Yes,
IELTS.
yes,
Mhm.
that's right. And well, yes, I would like to achieve a lot of things with my English.
Perfect. I recommend if you want to practice your TOEFL or IELTS skills, you can download some drill or mock test, which are like, how do you say that in Spanish? Simulacros of the test, right? So you could write, for example, TOEFL mock test, and there are going to appear some examples of the questions and some examples of the audios that you can find in a real exam. It's a good way to practice before the exam because the exam is not really that easy, so it's a good way to do it. And of course, at the end of this at the end of this course, you have the opportunity to practice to present, sorry, the lingua skill lingua skill exam. That is an exam, it's the same kind of exam. It's just that it's not that popular, it's not so famous, but it's exactly the same kind of exam. And it's going to evaluate your English level and it's going to give you an international certificate, which is really important, right? Okay. Excellent, Paul. Very good. Bueno, my dear people. So, looking into our these questions, right? We have seen that we can talk about our future, yes, but a little bit so ambiguous, yes, not so exact like when we say the next year I will do that, but we can express other kind of plans, right? And plans that maybe are like conditioned to past decisions, right? So, well, let's remember that when we talk about the future, we can do it with future simple, which is will and very infinitive. I will do, I will get a job, I will travel, whatever. But that happens in a specific moment when we said in 2030. Yes? Or we can talk about longer actions when it's future continuous, which is will, be, and the verb ing. For example, I will be working, I will be studying, I will be living. Yes, especially when we work about long actions that will be happening in one point of the future. We want to express that in that point, probably in the same point in 2030, I will be working in another company, but the action will continue. Yes, I just want to say that I will be doing the action. That's it. And the other one is the future perfect, which is completely different from the other two. Because the future perfect establish not a point in the future, but a limit in the future. So in this case, I don't say in 2030, but I use by 2030. And it probably seems like a little change, but it's actually a huge difference. Because when I say by 2030, is that the action it's going to happen, I don't know specifically when, but it's going to happen before that year. When I say by 2030, I imply that the action can happen in any moment before the limit of time, not in the limit of time like the other actions, right? When I say in 2030, is because the action is going to happen in that year. But when I say by, is that the action is going to happen before. There, I can use the future perfect, that it's will, have, and very past participle. But the future perfect can be divided into future perfect continuous and future perfect simple. Ready? This is the topic of today. Future perfect simple, that is the one that we have seen before. I would like to have established a company. I would like to have traveled around North America, for example, right? So it's an action that will have happened before the limit of time. Look at the examples that we ask, or look at the questions that I ask you, and we said by the time we finish the course. Not in that moment, but by that moment. 5 years from now, which is like by 2030. Yes, it's not like in 5 years, but 5 years from now, it's like by 2030 or within 5 years. So in that case, it's not exactly in 2030 because that is a specific moment in the future. But with the future perfect, we use a little bit more unexact, a little bit more ambiguous, right? Now, what is the difference between using future perfect simple or future perfect continuous? Well, the difference is pretty simple. When we use future perfect simple, yeah, we want to express, as I said before, that the action will have happened in any moment, but it's a simple action. Yes. For example, by the end of the year, I will have learned how to cook very well. Yes. I will have learned, it's because the action will have already finished. Probably I took this time, but I finished to learn. The action, when I use future perfect continuous, is because, sorry, the idea when we use future perfect simple is that the action will have finished completely before the limit of time. When I say by the end of the year, I say, okay, the limit of time, it's December of 2025. because it's by the end of the year. Yes. And I am saying that before that moment, I will have learned how to cook very well. Completely. I will have finished to learn. Yes. On the other hand, when I have future perfect continuous, it's going to be will, have, been, and the verb in ing. It's an action that will start at any moment, and by the moment of the limit, which is exactly the same, December of 2025, yes, the action will have still happened. But I want to mention for how much time, the duration of the action. The future perfect continuous focus on how much time I will have been, or for how much time I will have been doing the action, right? For example, by the end of the year, I will have been living in my new flat for 8 months, right? So it means that December, yes, it's the limit of the of time. 8 months before, yes, 8 months before, it give us like, let's say, what 8 months before it's June? Am I right? June? Yes. Let's say June. Yes, okay. So when I say by the end of the year, I will have been living in my new flat for 8 months, is that the action, in this case, living in my new flat, will have been happening for 8 months, right? So the future perfect continuous, what does is that it focuses on the duration of the action, right? That is the main use of the future perfect continuous, okay? How do you feel? Is it clear the difference between simple and continuous? Questions, more or less, kind of?
It's clear, teacher.
Yes. Okay, okay. Yes, listo, perfect, very good. So, for example, in the question, the first question that I asked you in the at the beginning of the class, that it was at the end of the course, how much time will you have been learning English? So, and Paola said for 6 months, more or less. And I said, yeah, of course, because we started on February 2024, February 24. Yeah. And the limit of time, it's July, no, mentiras, July, no, August 24th. August 24th, which means that we will have been learning English for 6 months. Okay, right? So in that case, we use future perfect continuous because we will be doing still the action. By the end of the year, we will have finished the course. Yeah, why? Because by the end of the year, we will have finished the course 6 months, okay? Yes, 4 months before, right? So that's why that is the difference between using future perfect continuous or future perfect simple. Okay, ready? Now, my dear ladies, I would like to ask you another question, right? Wait a second. I need to write down. Okay, right, that's it, right? So by the time you retired, I mean, you finished working, yes? How long will you have been working? What do you think? By the time that you retired, sorry, here it's in infinitive. By the time you retire, how long will you have been working? What do you think? How many years do you plan to work?
I will say, I'm not sure, maybe 40 years? This is a lot? I don't know.
That is a lot. How old are you, Amy? How old are you?
16, almost 17.
Almost 17. 17 and 40 would be 57. No, mentiras, it's kind of right. It's almost right.
Okay.
So, my dear, how would you express it? How would you say, pues habré estado trabajando por 40 años? How would you say that?
Now I have been working.
Well, not now, but by then, como para ese entonces,
Okay,
by then, I,
I have been working.
I will have.
Okay, me comí el whip.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. I will have been working for how much time?
14 years?
For 40 years.
Okay.
Exactly. Muy bien. Very good. Excellent. Almost right. Yes. So by then, I will have been working for 40 years. That's it. Right. Paul, what do you think? More or less?
I don't want to work that lot, so maybe 35 years, I
Okay.
think. I would be 62, so I will have been working for 35 years.
Exactly. Very good. So you will have been working for 35 years. Exactly. I mean, how old are you, Paul?
Almost 18.
Almost 18. So you got to work a little bit less. Because, of course, when you want to retire, you got to complete two requirements. One, the years of service, which are like 20 years of service, I think so, right? But the most difficult one is to complete the age. That for the guys is like 62, and for the girls is like 57, if I'm not wrong. Yes. So you gotta work until you are 57 years old, if I'm not wrong. Hmm? So that's why, for example, in the case of Emily, it's almost right because she's 17 and plus 40, it's 57 years old. But of course, you can do other different things to retire before. For example, you can stop working and invest. So you can maybe stop working and create some investment. You continue paying your retirement fee, and but you are not actually working. For example, you are paying from rent. Yeah, if you buy another apartment, for example, you can rent the apartment and contribute with your rent, not with your salary. And then you wouldn't work so many years, not like 40, 50 years, right? That's another possibility. Mm. Okay, very good. And another question. I have another question for you. I I suppose that you are still living with your parents, right? I would like to know in your plans, I don't know, probably it can change. It's just like a prediction, but how long will you have been living with your parents before leaving home? How long will you have been living with your parents before leaving home? And but girls, careful here with pronunciation because we have two different verbs, but they are homophones, no? So we have living and living. Two different verbs, but they sound exactly the same. So how long will you have been living with your parents before you left home? What do you think? What do you plan better?
Well, living with your parents is cheaper, right? So, my plan is to live with them until I am maybe 27, no, 20, 24, maybe, or 25. So I will have been living with them for 25 years.
Okay, very good. Yes. Mm. You have two possibilities because, of course, you could say, I will have been living with them for 25 years, which is all the time that you have been living with them, or you can measure the time from now. So you could say, but before I leave home, I will have been, of course, living with them for 18, bueno, let's say 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 24, 25, 7 years more. Yes, so for 7 years more. It means counting from now. Not from all your life, but counting from now. It's a different possibility. The other option that you told me, perfect. But this is another different possibility. Counting the time from the present until that moment. So he said, before I leave home, comma, I will have been living with them for 7 years more. That's other possibility. Muy bien. And Emmy, what do you think?
For me, before I leave home, I will have been living with them for 5 years more.
Okay, for 5 years. So 21. No, my God, too soon.
Yeah, that is my plan.
Okay, very good. Yeah, some people prefer independency faster, no? Okay, Emi, muy bien, very good. So that's the different. Well, that one, of course, is using future perfect continuous because it's an action that you will have continue doing until some moment, and then we are focused on the duration of the action, 7 years, 5 years more, whatever, right? But what about if I modify the question? Wait a second. Yes. The question could be that one. If I focus on the duration, probably it's going to be future perfect. But what about if I say, what will you have achieved before leaving home? Bueno, what do you expect? Must be because we don't know. It's only an expectation, but what do you expect you Ay, my God, you will have achieved before you leave home. In this case, we're not focused on the duration of the action, yes, but it's the actions that you expect to finish before you leave home. Yeah. So, what do you plan before leaving home? Do you plan to finish the university? Do you plan to get a job? What do you plan before leaving home?
I think I will have graduated from the university.
Okay. That's a great plan. Yeah, of course. So she plans that she will have, or she hopes that she will have graduated from university. Excellent, Amy. Very good. Now, what about you, Paul?
Well, I would like to have job stability, life stability, of course, and responsible expenses.
Okay, very good. So you would like to have established responsible expenses and a stable job, no? So you would like to have gotten us a stable job. Well, that's it. Very good. I think it's enough time. Lisa, so in that case, we are not talking about an action that you will be doing until that moment, but it's something that you expect to complete or to finish before leaving home. So that's why we use future perfect simple and not future perfect continuous, right? My dear ladies, questions in the future perfect, simple and continuous, or it's great?
It's clear, teacher.
Clear, good, excellent, very good. So that one was one of the ideas or one of the possibilities of the extra possibilities. Of course, we know that we can use the future simple, the future continuous, the plan to, want to, hope to, a lot of different options, but now we include future perfect simple and future perfect continuous in order to talk about my future, in order to express what plans or what predictions can we make. Yeah. So it gives me other different alternative to express my plans or my perceptions of the future, right? But as I said before, some of the plans that I have or that we can have, they are conditioned to an action in the past. Yes. For example, yeah, I had a problem, and it's that I spent I spent my what? I spent my youth partying. Yeah. And that decision of spend my youth partying, it created some consequences, right? It brought me some. Tell me, Paul, what is youth?
Yes, and this topic is about mixed conditionals.
Yes, exactly. It's about mixed conditions, right? Youth, it's juventud. Yes. Yes, it's about mixed conditionals. So I said, I have a problem before, or I had a decision. I made a decision before, and that decision created some consequences, right? The consequence that I have, no say, let's say, breathing problems, and I have some bad habits. I have bad sleeping habits because I got used to sleeping late. So I am very bad for waking up early. I have bad sleeping habits, right? So that's what it happens now. Yeah, those are the consequences now of my decisions before. Yeah. In the third conditional before, in the third conditional we saw at the last level, we saw that we can create a hypothetical situation using the past perfect. Yes? And that hypothetical situation, was about the past. So I said, if I had. Yes? For example, I want to imagine what would have happened if I hadn't spent my youth partying. Yeah, so that is the condition. If I hadn't if I hadn't spent my youth partying. That is the condition, and it's a condition about the past. Yes. In the third conditional, the consequence was also in the past. So the consequence was, for example, would have, and then another thing. Yes. For example, if I had had more patience, I wouldn't have broken up with her. Both condition and consequence were in the past. But in this case, no, because the consequence that I want to express are about the present. Yeah. So in that case, I don't express something that could have happened before. No, I'm expressing something that would be different now based on a past condition. The condition is that if I hadn't spent my youth partying, I wouldn't have these consequences, right? So if I hadn't spent my youth partying, I would have, or let's say I would sleep better. I would sleep better because I wouldn't have so many bad sleeping habits, right? So I would sleep better. Or if I hadn't spent my youth party, I would I would save I would have more savings. What is the meaning of savings?
Ahorros.
Ahorros, very good, right? But in the present. Yeah. So in this case, this is not a third conditional because the third conditional had a consequence in the past, but this conditional had a consequence in the present. So it's actually a mix between the third conditional and the second conditional because here the consequence is in the present or in the future. So it's a mixed conditional because it's mixing the first part of the third conditional with the second part of the third condition of the second conditional. Look at there. It says the third part, past perfect, if I had da da da, it's mixed with the second part of the second conditional, which is would, and the verb in infinitive, because it's a consequence about the present or about the future, right? How come about the future? Some of these consequences, so some of these decisions can probably have consequences about my future. Yes. For example, I would say that wait, what would have happened or what would happen in the future if I had continued? Of course, I stopped partying so much because I grew up. So, but what would happen in the future if I had continued, right? So I said, if I had continue, continued partying, yes, comma, I would have, I would have more health problems, my God, soon. Then, as it's a possibility, the possibility can be for now or for the future. In this case, clearly it's for the future, right? So again, I'm using the first part of the third conditional checking a hypothetical situation in the past with a consequence that can be, I mean, I use would because would is possibly for both future or present. It's a possibility. So we don't know specifically if it's going to happen now or if it's going to happen in the future, right? How do you feel? More or less difficult questions? Hmm. Emily, how do you feel? Great.
Good
Excellent.
teacher.
Excellent, excellent. Very good. That's great. So, my dear people, in this case, this is not the only combination that we can have, right? We can combine all different kinds of conditional as far as it makes sense. No? For example, let's remember that, all right, remember that the zero conditional, it's for something that it's always true. And the first conditional, it's used for something that it's sometimes true, right? And then I can use, for example, the first conditional with or the first conditional consequence with the third conditional condition, right? Could be. So, but the most common is using something that had happened before, that if it had happened before, it would have consequences right now, right? It's the most common one, so probably that's the one that we're gonna focus more, okay? Now, this second condition of the second conditional can be only would and the verb infinitive, or if it's a consequence that could be happening like more progressively, I can use would be and then ing, right? For example, if I hadn't, if I hadn't stopped, if I hadn't stopped padding, it's basically the same condition, just that is written differently, but it's exactly the same idea. If I hadn't stopped partying, I wouldn't be living with my girlfriend. With my girlfriend. Yes. So why? Because of course this is not a decision that could happen if I hadn't stopped partying, right? But it's an action that it's a long action. It's a progress. It's a process in my life. That's why I use continuous. Would be and then the verb in ing. If I hadn't studied English before, I wouldn't be working at Smart, for example, right? So when we have actions like, for example, living, studying, working, or actions that we do for a long time, we can use it using would be and the very ing. Ready? That is another possibility more. Got it? So in this case, the structure of this of the second conditional, of the mixed conditional, it's something like that, right? If I hadn't missed the job interview, I would be working now, right? So, and it is not regrets. I would like you to think in an important decision of your past and the consequences that it would have now in the present, changing that important decision of your past. Mm. For example, as I said, if I had stopped partying or not, it had or it has different consequences now. Yeah, it changes my life for good or for bad, but it changes my life. So I want you to think in a decision that you have made before, probably not so big, something smaller, and the consequences that it has right now in your life. Think about it, try to establish, try to express it.
Maybe if I had not known how to express my feelings, I will still be friends with a colleague or a partner.
Yeah, what happened? Did you have emotional differences?
Yes, and I'm not a person who express a lot her feelings. I am the person who eh, no
Keeps
sé cómo se
her.
llama. Yes,
Mhm.
so I keep away that partner.
Oh my God. Okay, that's good. But very good, excellent. So if I had known how to express my feelings, I would be still friends with that partner or with that colleague. Thank you, Emily. That is a great example. Good, right? And Paul, what about that?
Oh my God, it's like the same.
No way.
Because yes, I could have a relationship or something stupid. So if I had not been rude with that friend, I would be still chatting with her.
But why did you feel that you were rude? She deserved or not, or what?
Um, I don't know. Maybe she deserves it. Yes, but uh, to be honest, I were a little bit rude.
Okay. My God. Well, sometimes it's difficult to control ourselves. No? That's the difficulty of the emotions. Okay, Paul, very good, excellent. So those are situations that have a consequence now in the present, right? Good. Now I would like you to probably the same situation or probably a different situation, but with a consequence to the future, right? For example, when I was in my previous job, I suffered a lot of migraines. Do you know what is a migraine?
My
A lot of
what?
A lot of migraines.
Como migrañas?
Exactly, that's it, right? So in that case, I said that if I hadn't quitted that job, I would have, or I would possibly have brain damage soon, right? The consequence is not specifically for now, but it's more likely to be a consequence of the future. Try to think about it. It's just like a additional complementary exercise, but it's finding a situation in the past that if it had or had not happened, it would possibly have a consequence in the future. No, that's a possibility. For example, if I hadn't started to work so young, I wouldn't have hopes to retire a little bit sooner, course, in the future, no, but with a situation from the past. Try to think about it, try to get it, and if you cannot, tell me and I help you. No worries.
um if I hadn't gotten the time wrong, I would have gone to work on something at IBM.
Once again, Amy, if I hadn't gotten the time wrong, what time?
Eh, es que I have an interview,
Ah, okay.
so confusing the time,
Shoot.
the hour. So it was not only for me the interviews, just for a lot of people. So I thought that the interview was at the like at 2 p.m., but it was in at the 6 6 p.m. or I don't remember well, but I really confused the hour, so I don't enter to the interview.
Okay, of course, good. Okay, great. So if you hadn't confused the time, you would be working soon, right? That's something like that. Muy bien, very good. Paul, what about you, dear?
If I had tried harder, I would be living in United States right now.
Good, that's it, right? But the thing is that you mentioned right now, so the consequence is now. But you can change it, only changing the right now for in a couple of months, and that's it, right? So of course, the time complement is going to help me to contextualize better the situation. So you say, if I had tried harder, I would be, or I would, yeah, I would live in the United States in a couple of months, or I would be living in the United States by the end of the year, or something like that, right? Great, excellent. So, my dear people, in this case, this conditional, it's not the only possibility, as I said. You can also mix other different types of conditionals, like the first with the second one with the first, but it has to make sense. No, this is the combination that more makes sense, or that makes sense the most. So that's why it's like the most common one. The other ones are a little bit strange, but it can happen sometimes. So the activities, you can probably have seen some of those conditions, but they are not really common. So, but anyway, they can happen. Ready? My dear girls, questions about the activities, questions about the final checkpoint. Are you already finishing the week number 8, or what? How do you feel?
Everything was good, teacher.
Okay.
I finished the final checkpoint, and I think it was well.
Yes, it was. So, do you have already the advanced level enabled? Right?
Eh, Sorry, teacher.
Do you have the advanced level already opened, activated?
Uh, Let me check, and I tell you back.
Okay, fine. Paul, what about you? Questions with the final checkpoints? Have you checked them?
No, everything's good, but I didn't have finished.
Okay. No problem, no problem. Don't worry. You still have the rest of the week for that, okay? No worries.
Teacher, yes, I have now the advance open.
Okay, wonderful, very good. Okay, my dear girls. So, but as long as this is everything clear and you have no questions about the activities, that would be all for this week. See you the next week. The next week we're going to have two classes, 1.1 and 1.2. In the advanced level, the first week has two classes. So the first one would be on Tuesday. The second one would be on Thursday. Ready? So try to get well, already Emily has it already open, but for the people who are watching the video, try to get the advanced level open before Tuesday, because that is when happens the first class. So, for you can program, like, separate or book the class with me. And that's it. Okay. So see you the next week. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being so committed to the process, because completing already, this is the third level, not the second level that you complete. It's not an easy process. So thank you for being so committed, so constant with the process. And that's it. See you the next week. Okay.
Thanks, mister. Have a good
Thank
night.
Goodbye.
you so
Have a good
much.
night.
Bye.